A day off from school. I was home, sick from some unknown ailment I had felt earlier, but midway through the morning it had resolved with just the right amount of TV watching. Before the next show could start, several minutes before noon, my mother called me into the kitchen. A sandwich was on the plate, ready to go, teamed with a tall glass of milk and a bag of potato chips in the center of the table. I sat at my place, dug my hand into the bag, and began eating. My mother and father, with sandwiches in front of them, both picked them up and took big bites. A couple bites later, Mother turned to me and asked, "Do you want to go on a block run with us?" "What's a block run?" At noon they throw out all the cement blocks that didn't make it. I'm sure I had a puzzled look on my face, so she explained again. "You've got to be there right at noon." "Didn't make it?" I asked. "There's another guy there trying to get them too," my mom added. She was looking up at my father, who was looking back at her as if the sinister block picker-upper was their mortal enemy. I was in. I gave them a quick nod. Dad responded, "Yayawa." It sounded like a drawn-out threat, something Clint Eastwood's character might say before he shot 7 guys with a 6-shooter. While chewing my sandwich quick as I could, I thought, what can it mean, cement blocks that didn't make it? I knew of a cement company in town called WG Block. I'd seen their concrete trucks several times grumbling by. Apparently, the company also made concrete blocks and block products at the factory on the south side of Clinton. My father stood up and said, "Let's go, Susie," as I was gulping my glass of milk. Mother scurried to put the plates in the kitchen sink, and we hopped into our vehicle, an older truck with a large bench seat. I rode in the middle, so I got the best ventilation from the little triangular vent windows on the sides of the pickup. We tooled along familiar streets, mostly back roads, till we ended up face to face with the nemesis. A newer truck than ours sat opposite us in a chain-link enclosure. A man with white hair and a funny straw had sharpened his eyes to meet my parents' stares, like a Wild West standoff. My neck swiveled as I watched my mother's and father's eyes glint down to little slits the size of felt-tip pens. Suddenly my father was chewing tobacco or something. He spit out the window and turned his gaze back at the man in the straw hat. My mother whispered to me, "Get ready." I thought, get ready? Get ready for what? We're going to fight this man? It's going to be a very one-sided beating. Mom will kick this old man's butt. We heard a sharp, sure sign that the game would soon be afoot, the distinct sound of an approaching construction motor. They are usually much louder than any other kind of vehicle. Folks didn't worry so much about muffler systems on some of the construction equipment. The motor's rumbling racket hit a fever pitch, and simultaneously my father and the man across the yard opened their truck doors. Mother's door opened, and she touched my hand to let me know to get out from her side. In a few seconds we were standing, lined up, across the front of our old pickup truck. My parents were staring down the white-bearded single man in his straw hat. They continued to glare across at each other in silence as the motor's volume increased, louder and louder. Then, as if lightning had struck, a flatbed truck backed into the center of the yard, halfway between the 2 pickups. The driver stopped with a jerk. He opened his door and flipped an inside lever. He reached his hand out the door to push back a second lever, which allowed the flatbed to raise the pile of concrete blocks. The pile slid off almost in one huge hunk. The dull concrete sound and a plume of mortar dust blew across the pile in the hot June air. Something was about to happen. The driver of the flatbed advanced his monster about 10 feet, pulled the lever, and the flatbed began leveling. Dad said, "It started to level. Come on." The instant we took our first steps, so did the man with the white beard and straw hat. We all moved quickly towards the pile. Excitement was building in me, and I wasn't sure why. My father told me, "Try to get the full ones first." We reached the pile, 3 of us on one side and 1 man on the other. The full blocks, with 2 cells, were obvious and they were picked up out of the pile and set behind each combatant. The center line of the pile was now in dispute. My father saw a few full blocks in the no man's land. He jumped on them like some kind of lion. I was grabbing full concrete blocks with each hand and setting them behind me quickly. Back to searching through the pile. Dad said, "Move them broken ones out of the way and see if there's any below." Mom and I pulled out the broken ones and set them off to the side so we could search for mostly good blocks, ones with most of their corners intact. I held up one that had a little chip out of the top of one of the corners and I said, "This is a good one." My mom said, "Oh yes, that's a good one." As suddenly as it had started, all the full blocks with slight imperfections were spoken for. It was done, we relaxed and surveyed the battlefield. My team with 3 players had the most, 10 full blocks and 3 one-cell blocks in total. We eyeballed the Straw Hat Man's pile. He did pretty good too, he had 3 double-cell blocks. I wondered, is the Straw Hat Man too good that he wanted only full blocks? He had grabbed only 2-cell blocks. At this time my parents smiled at the man in the straw hat. In the most pleasing voice, Dad said, "Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow." Mom matched Dad's tone, repeating, "We'll see you tomorrow." I thought, their nice words don't fool me. The man answered, "See you tomorrow, have a great day." They spoke like old friends who had spent many afternoons leisurely discussing the world's issues in depth. We loaded the concrete blocks into the bed of the pickup truck. Mom said, 10 blocks is good. I asked, "Are all the blocks you guys have slightly broken?" Dad said, "Those blocks cost 45 cents each." You know how much money we just saved? Instantly doing the math in my head, I knew the number. I smiled. They always made the most of their construction business budget. On the ride home I thought about when I'd be at school the next day. Right about the end of the period before lunch, my mother and father would be munching their sandwiches and drinking milk, and preparing for another day's battle against the white-bearded man with the straw hat.